Picture this. You just woke up. You haven't even had a sip of coffee yet.
Oh, man, I know where this is going.
Right. Your eyes are barely open, and you reach over to the nightstand to grab your phone.
Yeah.
You just want to check the weather, maybe look at the news. But the second that screen lights up, it is just a wall of work notifications.
The absolute worst way to wake up.
It really is. Pings, direct messages, emails, alerts. Your heart rate just instantly spikes. And before your feet even touch the floor, you already feel like you are behind. Like you are somehow already failing at your job.
Yeah, you start the day in a deficit.
Exactly. And, we've all been there. But what if the problem isn't actually the volume of the work?
Right.
What if it's the invisible space between the workers?
That is the big question.
Right. So today, we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating case study of a fictional worker named Taylor. And Taylor is a new contractor at a fully distributed international company that they call Atlas Studio. And Taylor's journey in this case study essentially decodes the specific vocabulary and the communication choices that dictate whether remote work is a sustainable career choice or just a fast track to burnout.
Yeah, and that invisible space between workers that you mentioned, that is exactly where all the friction lives.
Yeah.
Because when we look at remote teams that completely fall apart, it is almost never because the employees suddenly forgot how to do their jobs.
Right. The actual skills are still there.
Exactly. The software engineer still knows how to code. The designer still knows how to design. The breakdown happens entirely in the unstated expectations. It's all about how they communicate across these screens. It is basically a massive failure of shared language.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to look at day one of Taylor's contract at Atlas Studio to see exactly what that failure looks like in practice.
Sure.
Because Atlas Studio is this global team spread across multiple time zones. The logistical reality is that a colleague's mid-afternoon productivity sprint happens to coincide with Taylor's 6 a.m.
Right, time zones are brutal.
They are. So Taylor's messages start arriving hours before breakfast. And Taylor's immediate reaction is this intense, overwhelming pressure to answer every single one of them right that second.
Yeah, and that is just the biological stress response in action.
Really, just pure biology.
Pretty much, yeah. Because think about it, without the physical ambient cues of a traditional office, you're flying blind.
What do you mean by ambient cues?
Well, in an office, you can glance across the room and see that your manager is, casually sipping coffee. They aren't in a rush.
Oh, right. You can read the room.
Exactly, you can read the room. But remotely, every single incoming message feels like a crisis because you don't have that context.
But wait, asynchronous literally means we don't have to be synced up. That's the whole selling point of this working model.
It is the selling point, yeah.
So if we all know this logically, why does my heart still drop into my stomach when I see a Slack message at 7 a.m.? Why do our human brains naturally default to panic responding the second a message comes in?
Well, what's fascinating here is that human nature absolutely abhors a vacuum, especially a social one.
A social vacuum.
Yeah. When you are in a physical office, you are constantly absorbing that ambient context we talked about. You see when people arrive, you see when they are deep in thought, you see when they pack up and leave for the day.
Yeah, you see a jacket on the chair and know they're around somewhere.
Right. And your brain constantly uses that data to calibrate your own behavior. It helps you assess your standing in the tribe, essentially.
Okay, wow. The tribe.
But in remote work, that entire contextual layer is completely stripped away. You are just alone in your house with a glowing piece of glass.
Just you and the screen.
Just you and the screen. And when we lack context, our evolutionary wiring defaults to the most stressful assumption to keep us safe.
Oh, so we assume the worst to survive.
Exactly. We assume they expect me to reply right now, and if I don't, they will think I'm slacking off and I will be outcast.
Which completely flips the traditional office dynamic on its head.
It really does.
Because in an office, your physical presence is your defense. You are sitting at the desk, ergo you are working.
Yes, you're visibly there.
But remotely, the only way to prove you exist and are contributing is to be hyper-responsive.
Which is exhausting.
It is. We end up playing this exhausting game of workplace whack-a-mole, where every notification is a mole and we just smash it as fast as possible to prove we're awake.
That's a great way to put it.
But in this version of the game, every single mole feels like a ticking time bomb.
And playing whack-a-mole for 8 hours a day will destroy your cognitive focus.
Oh, completely.
The constant context switching guarantees that you will never, ever get into a state of deep work.
Which is why we're all so burned out.
Exactly. And this is exactly where Taylor's manager steps in during a team call in the case study.
Right.
The manager introduces the structural cure for this anxiety, which they call the response window.
The response window. So the manager essentially says, here is our acceptable time frame for replying to standard messages. And then they pair it with a protocol for what constitutes an actual literal urgent situation.
Yes. And by clearly defining that response window, the manager entirely removes that psychological vacuum.
Oh, I see.
Taylor no longer has to guess what the unstated expectation is. The goalpost shifts from, reply instantly to prove your worth to just process this information within the agreed upon hours.
It gives Taylor the psychological permission to stand down.
It really does.
And Taylor takes immediate action on this. They update their internal profile with a very specific phrase. Taylor writes, I will be online from, and then puts their working hours.
Which is brilliant.
It is such a simple boundary,
Right.
but it fundamentally shifts the power dynamic between the worker and the technology, doesn't it?
It totally does. Stating, I will be online from, is basically an act of reclaiming autonomy.
Reclaiming autonomy.
Yeah. It transitions the worker from this defensive crouch where you're just waiting for the next ping to react to.
Just bracing for impact.
Right. It moves you from that into a proactive stance. You are setting the architecture of your availability.
Setting the architecture.
Yeah, and when you do that, an incoming notification at 7 a.m. ceases to be a command that demands action.
Right, because you're not on the clock yet.
Exactly. It just becomes a piece of neutral information sitting in an inbox until your response window officially opens.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But, and here is where things get tricky in the case study.
Okay.
Even if you perfectly gatekeep your time with these response windows, it is entirely useless if the messages you finally open are completely incomprehensible.
Oh, absolutely. Time boundaries don't solve terrible communication.
Exactly. Which brings us to the next massive hurdle in Taylor's first week, the actual content of the messages themselves.
Because protecting your focus doesn't yield much if you spend all of your protected time just trying to decipher what your coworkers actually want from you.
It's like decoding a ransom note.
It really is. Asynchronous work requires a level of precision that, frankly, most people are never trained to provide.
So true. So Taylor gets a message from a colleague that just says, can you take a quick pass at this?
Oh, no.
Right. And Taylor's sitting there completely paralyzed. Because what does that mean?
It could mean 100 different things.
Does a quick pass mean I need to officially approve this for publishing? Does it mean I need to tear it apart and heavily edit it? Or does it just mean I should skim it so I'm vaguely aware of its existence?
Right. This is the ambiguity trap.
The ambiguity trap.
Yeah, people rely on this casual, breezy language in remote settings because they are trying to inject warmth and friendliness into a cold medium.
Oh, that makes sense. They don't want to sound bossy.
Exactly. They don't want to sound like a rigid robot barking orders. But in an asynchronous environment, casual language almost always translates to vague language.
And vague language is a problem.
A huge problem.
Yeah.
Because vague language offloads the cognitive burden onto the receiver.
Oh, it really does. It's the workplace equivalent of a partner texting you, we need to talk.
Oh, gosh, yeah. The worst text to get.
It really is. On the surface, it's just 4 simple words. But in reality, it is a total psychological minefield.
Because you have no idea what it means.
Exactly. It can mean anything from, we need to break up right now, to, hey, we forgot to buy almond milk.
And your brain automatically goes to the breakup.
Of course it does. But let's look at the mechanics of this in the workplace. Isn't it unfair that the burden falls on Taylor, the receiver, to decode this? Like, shouldn't the sender just be banned from using vague phrases like quick pass in the first place?
Well, in a utopian work environment, yes.
Right.
Every sender would write with perfect clarity. But we have to look at the psychology of the sender in that specific moment.
Okay, what are they thinking?
The sender is likely overwhelmed. They're just trying to cross an item off their own to-do list.
Just getting it off their desk.
Right. So by shooting off a vague request, like take a quick pass, they're essentially tossing a hot potato of cognitive load over the fence to Taylor.
A hot potato.
Yeah. And the thing is, you cannot control their lack of precision.
You can't control other people.
No. If Taylor gets frustrated and just ignores it, or if Taylor guesses and does the completely wrong thing, the entire project stalls.
So the burden of clarity shifts to the person catching the potato.
Unfortunately, yes. That's just the reality. But Taylor handles this with a masterclass in professional diplomacy.
Taylor really does.
Because Taylor doesn't guess, and Taylor doesn't throw the potato back in anger.
No. Taylor replies with this: happy to help. Would you like comments only, or should I edit the document directly?
That is such a good response.
It is, right?
That specific phrasing is a really powerful tool to deconstruct ambiguity. First of all, starting with happy to help establishes a collaborative tone.
Which is important.
It's vital because written text lacks the nuance of voice and body language. You need those warm openers.
But the real genius is in the second half of that reply,
Absolutely.
providing a binary choice:
Yeah.
comments only or edit directly. It forces the sender to clarify their vague request without making them feel accused of poor communication.
Exactly. It elegantly forces the sender to do the remaining cognitive work.
Right. You aren't saying your request made absolutely no sense and you're bad at your job.
Right.
You are framing it as, I want to execute this perfectly for you. Which of these two paths is the right one?
Yes. And by securing that precise direction, Taylor completely eliminates the risk of duplicated work.
Oh, duplicated work.
It is the silent killer of remote teams.
It really is.
It is a massive drain on company resources, sure, but more importantly, it destroys morale.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Because if Taylor spent, 3 hours rewriting that entire document, only to discover the colleague just wanted a quick spell check.
Resentment builds instantly.
Instantly. It's so frustrating. The source material also points out another incredibly highly leveraged phrase to use in these ambiguous situations.
What's that?
Could you confirm the expected deadline?
Oh, that is a great one.
Right. Because again, someone dropping a file in your inbox with a note saying no rush.
Oh, no rush is another terrible one.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they might mentally translate no rush to mean by Friday afternoon. Well, you might translate it to, sometime next month.
Exactly. Asking for deadline confirmation forces an unstated, invisible expectation out into the open text.
It's an insurance policy.
It really is. It's an insurance policy against future conflict.
Okay, so we have seen Taylor build these defensive architectures. Taylor implemented response windows to control the timing and diplomatic clarification to control the ambiguity.
Right.
But the final piece of the puzzle, and here's where it gets really interesting, is where the dynamic truly shifts. This is where Taylor goes on the offensive.
Okay.
Taylor takes complete control of the communication flow.
And this is the transition from merely surviving a remote environment to actually architecting it.
Yes. By the end of the first week, Taylor stops waiting to be asked for updates. Very proactive. Taylor starts deploying a very specific framework. It covers 3 distinct categories: what is finished, what is next, and what is blocked.
Finished, next, blocked. I love that.
And Taylor pushes this out with the phrasing, here is a quick progress update, and I am blocked by.
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that specific vocabulary word, blocked, is just a brilliant piece of emotional engineering.
Emotional engineering, how so?
Well, think about a traditional office. If a project stalls, it almost always turns into a highly emotional blame game.
Oh yeah, I couldn't finish because Sarah didn't send me the file.
Exactly.
Good.
It feels personal. Sarah dropped the ball. But using the term blocked completely neutralizes the emotion.
Oh, I see. It removes the ego from the delay.
Yes. You aren't assigning a moral failure to a coworker. You are just objectively stating a logistical reality.
The work cannot proceed because a dependency hasn't been met.
Right. It turns a potential argument into a simple engineering problem.
It's just a roadblock. It's not Sarah's fault, it's just a block.
Exactly. And the structure of that entire update, the finished, next, blocked format, it acts like a mechanism for automating trust.
Automating trust. That's an interesting way to phrase it.
Because in a physical office, trust is often built just by seeing someone sitting in their chair looking busy.
Right, the whole butts in seats mentality.
Exactly. But in a remote office, trust has to be built through predictable, visible output.
Which fundamentally changes the psychology of the team.
It does.
We often think being a quote-unquote good remote worker means sending a relentless stream of messages to prove we are engaged. Like, look at me, I'm typing.
Right. Creating noise to prove you exist.
Exactly.
Right.
But this Taylor framework acts exactly like a traffic light.
Traffic light.
Yeah. Green for what is finished, yellow for what is next, and red for what is blocked.
I love that analogy.
It's about clarity, not volume. It removes the need for managers to micromanage because the status is visually automated.
It really does replace the exhausting noise of constant communication with the high signal value of considerate communication.
Considerate communication. So the source material really boils this down to a trinity of remote work:
Okay.
visible, specific, and considerate.
That makes perfect sense because constant communication is just the wall of panic-inducing notifications we discussed at the start.
The whack-a-mole.
Right. It is highly reactive and universally inefficient.
Yeah.
But considerate communication respects the boundaries of the response window. Specific communication eliminates the ambiguity of things like a quick pass.
Right.
And visible communication proactively automates that trust through your traffic light update.
It's like realizing you don't actually have to shout to be heard if you just speak with absolute clarity.
Yes. The loudest voice in the Slack channel isn't the most effective worker.
No.
The most predictable voice is.
The most predictable voice. I like that.
True remote confidence is built through that predictability. It is constructed one highly intentional, precisely scoped conversation at a time.
So how do we operationalize this? Let's extract this toolkit from Taylor's case study so anyone listening can literally rewire their workday starting tomorrow morning.
Sounds good.
Step 1. Reclaim your autonomy over your time. Stop treating notifications as commands.
Yes. Define your response window.
Exactly. Define it and publicly state, I will be online from, and give your hours.
And step 2, refuse to absorb the cognitive load of vague requests.
Do not guess what a quick pass means.
Never guess. Deploy that binary clarification. Would you like comments only or direct edits?
And always force the invisible timeline into the open by asking, could you confirm the expected deadline?
Yes. Clear away all that ambiguity.
And finally, step 3. Automate trust by going on the offensive with your updates.
Using the traffic light model.
Exactly. Use the phrases, here is a quick progress update, and I am blocked by.
If you implement these frameworks, you really stop being a victim of the technology.
You take the power back.
You do. You start actively managing the invisible space between you and your colleagues.
You create a structural environment where deep, focused work can actually thrive, completely independent of geography.
You really do. But, looking at all of this highly optimized, incredibly efficient communication architecture, it does raise a rather profound question about the nature of work itself.
Oh, where are we headed with this?
Well, think about it. If we actually succeed in mastering this visible, specific, and considerate asynchronous communication,
Yeah.
if we engineer our workflows so perfectly that we eliminate all ambiguity, we rarely need to clarify a point. And we never have to hop on a spontaneous, chaotic call to hash something out.
Okay, I see where you're going.
What happens to the messy, accidental human friction that traditionally sparks our most creative ideas?
Oh, wow.
Right. If everything is perfect, where is the spark?
That is a phenomenal point. If every single interaction is perfectly scoped and completely asynchronous, we might gain ultimate efficiency, but we might lose the accidental genius of the water cooler.
Exactly. The serendipity of it all.
Wow. Well, on that note, we are going to leave you to ponder that balance. The balance between structure and serendipity in your own workday.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.